Hi, and welcome back here on the Senior Network. We are now joined by Janet Porter, PhD, and you are the chair of the board for directors, and that is Hospice Care of the Lowcountry, correct?
That's correct.
Great to have you. I know I've heard about you and seen some things out there in the community. I know you're very busy, very active, and we appreciate all you do for Hospice Care of the Lowcountry. I know the community does. We want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit. Before the show, you were talking about, I know these webinars, I've seen them out there, and this conversation project that you guys are doing, trying to educate us a little bit on what all this is about.
Okay. We are thrilled during this time to provide services to the community that help them really address end-of-life questions.
Sure.
So we came up with a series of webinars. We'll do one a month. The first one was on the Conversation Project, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The second one was on legal matters at end of life. You know, how do you want to dispose of your assets? Last month we did medical matters. What are your issues that you think about? It was great because we also discussed, are you ready to call 911, and what does that mean, and when do you call them, and really very practical information. Next month we're doing one on grieving and grief support, and then in October we have one on planning your funeral, thinking about what you want in terms of your funeral. So what we know is that end of life is like going on a trip. If you don't plan for what you want at end of life, you're probably not going to get your wishes honored. Yeah. So that's what we're working for.
Awesome. And we don't always want to talk about it, but it is out there. The pandemic, COVID's out there. Tell us a little bit about what Hospice Care of the Lowcountry is maybe doing to help guide people through that process with grieveness and things like that.
Well, there's two major things that I want to really reach out to the community and make sure they know that we're aware of. The first is these webinars, because they offer good practical information. You can go to our website, Hospice Care LC, that stands for Hospice Care Lowcountry, hospicecarelc.org. And you can see the old presentations. We've saved them, and people can get into the website and see past webinars, or you can see them live. And we send out an announcement and have done a lot of promotion of them. So those are both ways. You can see them live or you can see them recorded. The second thing I want to talk about, which we're going to be focusing on in our next webinar, is grief support. So we offer an array of grief support services, groups, individual counseling. And what people don't realize oftentimes is that you don't have to have, your loved one does not have to have been a patient of Hospice Care of the Lowcountry. In fact, for example, we really realized that there was a need in the community for those who had lost loved ones to suicide. So we have a specific group on those who've lost loved ones to suicide because they have unique issues.
Sure.
But especially during COVID, with so many people facing losses, our demand is really high for these programs, and we have a wonderful director and a terrific chaplain, Charlie Tyler and Barb Scooby, run those programs, and we really encourage people to not grieve alone. But to really reach out and seek a resource like Hospice Care of the Lowcountry to help them get through this challenging time.
Yeah, and I know, and you mentioned that those things are free, correct? I mean,
they're free of charge. It's a service. We're the only not-for-profit hospice in the area. We're almost 40 years old. Started by active Hilton Head volunteers, community citizens who wanted people to have these services at end of life. And so, we have a commitment to offer whatever the community needs to face end of life appropriately.
Right. We brought up something I've always been very impressed. Share a little bit about your volunteer program. I know it's a very large program.
Well, we have lots of ways you can volunteer. You can volunteer and have your pet be one of our hospets.
Right.
And that's kind of been curbed by the COVID, but people take their hospice, they take their patients, they take their dogs, to all kinds of places, to long-term care facilities, into individual homes, etc. So that's one way. You can volunteer by actually being matched with a patient, and I've done that, where you might provide groceries, you might be there to provide, any kind of services the family needs. Or you can volunteer to work at our front desk or stuff envelopes. I mean, we have we have about 180 volunteers.
Wow. Good for you. Congratulations. I know I hear wonderful things about your volunteer staff.
Yeah.
Well, Janet, we're out of time, but I really appreciate it. Great information. Everybody pay attention to the webinars. I know I have, and it's definitely worth the time investment into that. Please take a moment, if you will, email us any comments, questions you may have here for us here on the Senior Network. We'll see you the next time. Thank you so much.